rough throwing the football for Iowa. Man, I know you as a fan, somebody that has grown up in the state. You, like all of us, though you just joined the HawkeyesWire.com team, we've all been waiting and talking about, is this the year that Iowa has found the next quarterback that it can trust to go be a Stanley, a Tate, and others that have been positive, a Beathard for Iowa. And we're still hoping that Gronowski can be that guy, but the opening returns were not what any of us were expecting. He was inaccurate. He looked nervy out there for Iowa. Obviously, he had the cramping issues a little bit later on, but the returns on the throw game against an FCS opponent in Albany, look, there's no way to come on here or any other Iowa forum and say that it's anything other than discouraging. It was very disheartening what we saw in the throw game from Iowa.
Yeah, and it was hard to watch at times. And like I don't have great eyesight, obviously, because I'm wearing these. But if I had taken off my glasses at some point during that game and was watching Iowa's offense, and you hadn't told me any of the offseason news that happened, I would have thought it was Cade McNamara back there throwing the ball. I would have had no idea that Iowa had a quarterback change because it looked just like the passing game did at its worst last year. And I mean, obviously, what Gronowski can bring in the running game is way better than what you got from McNamara, who's basically a statue in the pocket. But it doesn't, the extra running game and that mobility is nice, but if you're not hitting the routine throws, it doesn't matter. And 8 of 15 for 44 yards was that stat line. Like that's like we're in Deacon Hill territory with those numbers, and that's not a quarterback at Iowa that you ever want to be compared with numbers wise. And I think that first drive was really indicative of what was going on, where he missed Sam Phillips wide open in the end zone. And I still can't tell if it was tipped or not by that Albany defensive player, because on first initial look, I thought it was, and then people online were saying it wasn't tipped. And then I heard some beat writers say that it was tipped. So I have no idea. If it was tipped, obviously it's out of his control. But if it wasn't tipped, that was a terrible throw. It bounced about 5 yards in front of a wide open Sam Phillips in the end zone, who was very clearly frustrated later in that game with the lack of targets thrown his direction, and then whatever that ball that he kind of lobbed over, I think it was Terrell Washington and the flat. I against a good team, that's probably a pick six. Like you just can't throw. I'm not sure what the idea was with that, and it just didn't look good. And then we saw the next 2 drives. He had a wide open Seth Anderson, who we thought made a grab and ran for about 15 yards, but it was incomplete because the throw was at his shoelaces, and he was wide open. Like that's a throw that you got to hit. So it's just the routine stuff that I think is the most frustrating for Iowa. Like obviously, it would have been nice to see him come out and sling a 50-yard completion right away or whatever. But I mean, you have to make the routine plays routine, and Mark Gronowski just didn't do that on Saturday. I will say that he ended well. He finished 6 for 7 for 31 yards and that touchdown, I believe, before he started cramping. He ran the ball very well. I didn't like how much he was getting hit in that game. Really don't like that against an FCS school. But if you're looking for some kind of positive, which is very hard to find in this passing game, is that he did end better. But I think it's obviously very discouraging, and I'm not. I texted our group chat earlier because they were talking about the panic meter, and I'm curious what everyone in the chat has to think about that. But the panic meter for Mark Gronowski and this passing offense: 1, not worried 1 bit, to 10, put in Hank Brown. What's everyone's panic meter at? I'm at about a 4 right now. Another performance like that on Saturday, I'm probably closer to a 9.5. This game means everything on Saturday, and so I'm curious what everyone in the chat, their panic meter is at with the passing game, and then I'll throw that question back to you, Josh.
Yeah, I'm definitely more in the 6, 7 type range, which is exactly what Eric just tossed into the chat right there. I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Are you kidding me? It was an FCS opponent, and the just wild inaccuracies to open targets in the end zone. That's the one item what you were talking about, Zach. The hope from Mark Gronowski, more really than anything, the addition of Mark Gronowski coming over from South Dakota State was, here's somebody for the first time in a long time is going to just make the makeables for us. Just make the makeables for us. And the fact that that didn't happen versus Albany, given the history of this Iowa program, I just think it would be dishonest to get in front of a microphone and talk to the people and say anything other than, yeah, I'm pretty legitimately concerned with what we saw. Now, okay, it's one performance, albeit again against Albany, who's an FCS foe, but this was a new arena for Mark Gronowski to some degree to be the guy. He's the quarterback at Iowa. And oh, by the way, I mean, look, whether Gronowski was a part of it or not, Gronowski knows the history of Iowa quarterbacks and the pressure on this offense and the shortcomings of its passing offense. So that in conjunction with, okay, welcome to 70,000 plus, and you're the guy, and we're swarming at Kinnick. I understand, and Mark Gronowski admitted as much, that he was a little bit probably too geeked up, a little too wound up for the start. So I expect some of that to come back down to earth. Though, look, it's going to be challenging going over to Jack Trice Stadium and everybody's against you there. I don't know. There was some debate or discussion, Zach, that I think it was Chad Leistico asked the question to Kirk Ferentz. Could that help a veteran quarterback going out and being in the road environment instead of all? Sometimes every once in a while being at home is almost more pressure-packed in some ways than going on the road, which it probably shouldn't be that way, but sometimes it looks that way. So I don't know. Maybe there's something there, but on the panic meter, I would have to lean more toward yes, I'm panicked than no, I'm wait and see. I mean, no, I'm a little panicked because of the history of quarterback play at Iowa. The fact that, look, the makeables didn't get made in this game. Now, am I ready to turn the football over to Hank Brown and feel really confident in that? No, I'm not confident in that option either.
Yeah, and you know what, Josh? Like the one thing that I can't believe that this group is avoided the scrutiny that Mark Gronowski has gotten, but that wide receiver room was extremely disappointing on Saturday, and I'm at a point, and I know we've talked about it with Seth Anderson and people like that, and it's always he's had a great camp and a great kids day, and I'm at a point with Iowa's wide receivers where I don't care what happens in practice. I don't care what happens at kids day or in the off season or what the reports are or what the coaches say about how good they look. I don't care about that anymore. Like, until Iowa's wide receivers actually do it in an actual game on the field in the regular season, that matters. I'm done buying into the hype. I'm done, expecting anything from Iowa's wide receivers because Mark Gronowski was bad. Like, no excuses. Like he took the brunt of that after the game. But Iowa's wide receivers were not getting open. Like, they weren't helping him out very much. There was a drop from KJ Parker, I think, that if he makes that play, who knows what happens with Mark Gronowski's confidence to pick up a first down on that play. Like, I'm getting really sick and tired of the wide receiver room every single year, getting hype in the offseason. It's going to be different this year. We have this guy, we have that guy, and then it never happens in the regular season, or they'll do it against an FCS school and then they'll disappear in Big Ten play. Like, and I know it's Iowa's scheme. They run the ball, they get the ball to the tight ends. Like, I understand it's not all their fault, but the wide receiver room, I'm shocked about how, Lamar Jackson in the pocket, like, they avoided the scrutiny that Mark Gronowski got, and I have no idea how, because they were not helping him out at all on Saturday.
I will say this, and your fear is if you can't throw it, then okay, obviously everybody loads up the box, and that makes life tough for Kamari Moulton if and when he comes back, whatever the timeline looks there. Xavier Williams, TJ Washington, right? Jazz Patterson, insert Nathan McNeil, insert running back name here. It makes that life more difficult, and obviously it makes it difficult for Gronowski to on the quarterback run game to run the football. But I liked what we saw from Gronowski in the quarterback run game. If I can get into a couple more positives again, I do like what we saw there from Mark Gronowski. He's if they can figure out the throw game a little bit, he's got to settle down and be more accurate. He certainly can be a dual threat guy for Iowa. So that was positive. I'm with you. You took one too many hits, but there's something there from Gronowski running the football. So that definitely was a positive.
Yeah, and I think, I went back and rewatched a little bit of the game too, and I think it was TJ Washington after the game said that, or Xavier Williams, one of the running backs said that Albany, was running. Albany was running, a very deep coverage. Like they did not want to get beat deep in that game, and so they were running, a defense that Iowa wasn't really game planning for. Iowa was kind of expecting Albany to kind of load the box and try and stop the run and maybe, leave a receiver one-on-one on the outside for a shot. But Albany was playing very conservative defense and not wanting to get beat deep. Obviously not an excuse. It's an FCS defense, but Albany did throw Iowa for a loop there. But I liked what Mark Gronowski did in the running game as well. Again, I don't like how much he was getting hit, but he showed some elusiveness. He showed some mobility. They even called some quarterback draws, which I know we saw a bit last year with Brendan Sullivan. But before that, I can't remember the last time we had seen a design quarterback draw in the Iowa offense. And so it's a fun wrinkle to add to the offense, but ultimately it doesn't matter unless you're throwing the ball, because a passing performance like that against Iowa State is not going to cut it. You're not winning that game. And so we're going to learn a lot. I think Iowa State they're a smart program. Their defensive coordinator is very smart. Matt Campbell's a good coach. They're going to load the box on Saturday. Iowa's not going to run the ball. If Iowa State has their way, Iowa's not going to be able to run the ball. And they're going to make Iowa complete some passes and prove that can be part of the game plan before they respect it. And so Mark Gronowski and these receivers are going to have opportunities on Saturday. They're going to get one-on-one coverage. They're going to get a chance to go deep, and can he pull the trigger on it? I think that'll be the big thing. We can talk more about Iowa State a bit later as well, but I just think I'm at about a 4.5. It's very concerning against an FCS school, but the way I think about it is like this, Josh. If Mark Gronowski and this passing offense goes out on Saturday against Iowa State and plays really well and picks up a win, not one single person will care about the Albany game.
Well, right.
But if they went out against Albany and threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and then played like this against Iowa State, no one would care about the Albany game. And so I think Iowa has a chance to completely rewrite the narrative on Saturday. But if you don't, then that concern level, I think, is really going to rise. But I think, against Iowa State, there's a huge opportunity for Iowa to completely change the narrative about that passing game.